Now, when you purchase an electric car, one of the things you learn is there's a lot of different places you can charge your car. In fact, there are a number of apps out there that tell you all these different places out there that have charging ports that are enabled. Some of them are at dealerships, some of them car dealerships, some of them are at roadside stands, some of them are in front of different places like Whole Foods that I'm standing in front of here. And you get these different places where you can charge your car, and it's really cool. Some of them have a low cost, some of them are free. You never really know what you're going to find, so you have to kind of investigate it a little bit. And they vary in level. As I've told you before, there are 3 levels of charging. There's level 1, which is basically your wall outlet, 110 volts. And 15 amps or so, and that will take you about 15 hours to charge your car to full. And then there's this level 2, which is basically the 240 volts, 32 amps, which will take somewhere around 5 hours to charge your car all the way from empty to full. And then there's the level 3 chargers like we have over here. This Whole Foods happens to have some Tesla stations right over there. Those are the Superchargers, and those are the level 3 type charging stations. And those will charge the car in under an hour, depending on where you are. It should take under an hour to do it. I currently have 5 apps on my phone. 2 of them are for finding charging stations, and the other 3 are for actually charging. So let's take a look at the PlugShare first. If we click on it, we'll see the location that we're in, and it will tell us the stations that are around. So we can actually just go to it, click on the Whole Foods Market, the J1772 type, and actually open it up, see what it looks like here. We see that it's here, it's free, it's got other things available to it. There are 2 charging stations and some wall charging stations as well. Those would be up by the building itself. Now, we do know that one of these is broken. It says so here, could not activate, and was disabled by the owner. That's still true. But that's okay. It gives me a sense of what's around. The other one is the Tesla Supercharger, and we can click on that and see what it is and see the information there. Of course, we can also see this through the Tesla app, but it gives us an idea of what's around. The second one I use is ChargeHub. ChargeHub is a very similar type of thing where we use the map to find locations. The difference between the two is that some are listed in one but not the other, and some are listed in both. So I like to have both just so I know what charging stations are around. I get a similar sort of piece of information here. This one just compiles and collapses both the Tesla Supercharger and the one that's in front of Whole Foods together. But it's the same information that's here, and I can read through it and see what the charging stations look like. So these are very helpful when I'm looking for a charging station that's available to me. But here I am. I'm going to use the Whole Foods charger while I go into Whole Foods for a few minutes, and it's actually pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and plug in and see how it goes. It has a very specific charger that they use. It looks like this. The other companies that produce charge ports look like this, which is different. It doesn't fit in there. So that's why Tesla gives you this extra piece here, this thing right here, that allows you to adapt it so you can plug it in between the 2 chargers. So you take this piece like this. It's got the port that fits on this one, and you basically just plug it in like this. It only fits one way. And there you go. You've just converted this charging type into a Tesla charging type. Pretty cool, right? So I'll go ahead and plug that in here. There we go. Now I'll start up the charging. So among the 3 apps is ChargePoint. ChargePoint is one of the 3 companies that manages these charging stations. So I'll go to it and I'll click on the app. It'll find the location. I'll click on Start Charging. It'll confirm with me that I want to start. It'll contact the charger, and it will allow me to start charging. I can plug in and actually start the charging. So pretty straightforward. We just go ahead and plug in, and we're ready to get started with the charging. The car will recognize it and should start up the charging momentarily. Now, as far as the other 2 apps go, there's 2 other ones. One is SEMA Connect, and this is the one I have to use for work when I want to charge. It shows me the locations around that are useful through that charging network specifically, and it tells me what the charging amounts are going to be for charging at those stations. In this case, it's a cost per hour instead of a cost per kilowatt hour that I leave it plugged in. But it's good to have some other charging stations available to me that I can charge at if I need to. And the third one is Eevee Go. Now, I haven't found any Eevee Go stations around here, but someone recommended to me that I put the Eevee Go app on my phone just in case I need to be able to charge somewhere else when I'm out of town. As I said, there's none around, but I'll go ahead and I'll type in a location. It'll find the nearest chargers for me and tell me what they are. And from there, I can decide whether I want to charge. The idea is to never run out of charge, and if I've always know where the chargers are around me, it makes life much easier, so I don't have a problem. So I started off a video a while ago, a couple of months ago, where I wanted to charge to 90% every single night. And it turns out that charging to 90% every single night is a little bit, well, I'll use the word impractical. It's not that it doesn't work, it's just that there's some other oddities that go along with charging that make it difficult. Now, I could certainly plug my car in every single night to my house and actually have it running. That would work. I can just plug it in and get it to 90% every single night. But with the availability of free charging and other places I can charge, sometimes it makes sense to charge it differently and not charge it up to 90%, to actually plug it in different places. Maybe I'm at work and I can charge it to 70%, or I come to a place like this that's got free charging available and I can charge it to whatever percentage I can get for the time that I'm there. So it's never really obvious how much I should charge to. So let's go take a look at the historical, how much I've charged by percentage, and then we'll look at the mileage that I've gotten out of it to see if there's any degradation in the battery that we can tell from just looking at the numbers. So this graph really just shows how much I charge over time to the percentage. So the orange line really shows me at 90%, and I do try to get to there as often as I can, but it's impractical to always get there. Sometimes I have to charge to a lower amount because I'm out and I'm plugging in. Sometimes because I need to go somewhere else. Sometimes it's just other reasons that impact my ability to charge. So over time, you can see that I don't always charge to 90%. But how does that affect me? That's the real question. So there are two things that I look at when I'm looking at battery life and how well I'm doing. The first is to evaluate how many miles I drive versus how many miles I'm putting of charge on the car after I drive those miles. You want that number to be as close to 100% as you can, though I know I'll never get there. But what I'm seeing over time is that my number of miles that I put on the car is getting better and closer to the number of miles that I actually drive. That's why the orange line is going up. If the battery life weren't so good, it would stay flat or perhaps would go down. Now, certainly the fact that I'm driving the car more efficiently is part of the reason that it's getting better. But I do see that I'm doing better with the car and I have a better understanding of how it works. The second thing I'm noticing is that over time, every time I charge the car to 90%, I see that it goes back to about 189 miles, which is exactly the amount that I was charging it to when I first got the car. 90% was about 189 miles. So I can see that I am being fairly efficient with the battery, and the battery life is staying relatively the same at this point. Now, I'll look for other ways to monitor that as well, but that seems to be pretty close. So the amazingly convenient part is that I just left Whole Foods, got some food for myself, and headed back to my car. And while I was in there for the little while, my car was charging. Did it charge to 100%? No. Did it even charge a lot of miles? Not really. I think I probably put maybe 10 or 15 miles on it while I was there. But that's okay. I put some miles on it. And that leads me back around to my discussion about whether it's right to have to continue to charge to 90%. And this is why it's hard sometimes. So I'll charge some here. I'll probably plug it in tonight and finish charging it to about 90%. But it doesn't mean it's going to necessarily get there all the way and always be at the percentage that I want. I have to kind of manage how much I want to charge it, how many other places there are to charge it at time out. And when I'm away, not near the house for some period of time, and I need to charge it at some point, I'm certainly not going to charge it to 90%, especially if I have to pay something to charge it. I want to do it where it's a reasonable cost and doesn't put me out a lot. Charging is not that expensive anyway as compared with gas, but even so, I want to try and be reasonable about how much I charge and how much I spend on charging. So I try to be kind of try to do it in a smart way. So now that I'm back to the car, I'm going to go ahead and hit the Tesla app and open up the app. And that will unlock the charging port for me. And as I look down the app, I can actually see where the nearby Supercharger was that I mentioned earlier. But now I'm going to go ahead and just stop the charging. And that will turn off the charging method. Now what's going to happen is ChargePoint is going to send me a text and it will tell me that it's finished charging. It's telling me it put 2 kilowatt hours in there. When I look at the Tesla itself, it says it put 1.78 kilowatt hours, which is explainable by the fact that there's a small amount of energy loss when you actually do the charging. Just simply pull this out and plug it back in over here and pull my connector out. There we go. And as I do that, the charge port closes. All I had to do was just stop it and I was able to do that. So pretty simple and straightforward as far as that goes. And I just put this little adapter back in my bag here, my bag of tricks, that I keep around just in case, for exactly this reason.